Morning. It is Saturday the 2nd of November, and we had some rain yesterday. So we kind of ended up running in the rain a little bit and then got everything nice and muddy getting it home. But basically got into a different variety of corn that seems a little bit wetter, so I'm going to go pull off some ears in the field, in that field, as well as a different spot, and see if we can find a spot that's dry enough to justify running both ground moisture and corn moisture. Otherwise, things are going fairly smoothly, I guess. The truck hasn't totally fallen apart, so that's good news, and the combine's doing well. Gonna run maybe kind of a short day today and take tomorrow off, and the forecast for next week looks pretty solid, so I should be able to get things wrapped up next week sometime. So this is where we were running yesterday. It's still frozen right now, so it's not too bad, but this was getting pretty greasy and probably is going to be greasy again once things thaw out. We're going to just walk into this corn and pull off a couple ears. I pulled a couple in another field. Looks like this is kind of going down, so it would be nice to get it out before it gets worse, possibly. See the stalks laying across the ground there. So we'll just pull a couple ears off and take those back to the shop and hand shell them, and then check the moisture and figure out exactly where we're going to go. But it seems like it might be good to get this stuff out ASAP. So there's a pretty fair chance we might be over here just combining on the other side of the field where there's gravel. So we'll walk through here. Seem to have a spot here without very many corn plants. Maybe got run over by the sprayer, possibly. We're on just a little patch on the corner of the field here that's oddly shaped and kind of a pain to farm, but pretty good dirt, so it's kind of worth it. We'll find another random ear to yank here. So we'll take a couple ears home and, like I said, hand shell those, test them in the moisture tester, and then figure out exactly where we're going to go. But I was looking at the planting map, and I think we have some corn over here that should be drier than where we were running yesterday afternoon when the rain started. So most likely we'll be back over here for kind of a short day today. Alright, we're going to see what we got with this corn. So we're going to hand shell it with a little hand sheller here. Try to get the camera position to sort of show what we're doing. So just back and forth, and the kernels will fall through. Try and keep as much as possible in the bucket so we don't eat the mice. Try to keep them out of the shop as much as possible, but they tend to look for warm indoor spots when it gets cold outside. So we'll check the temperature. We're 45 degrees, so we'll have to, I think, add some to that because of the temperature. So then we'll measure out some corn here. So this is the moisture tester. It's not a spring chicken by any means, but it does a pretty good job. So the first thing we'll do is set the balance on this. So hold this knob over, and then we'll look at the meter over here as we turn the dial. And there's a line on the main dial here that we're going to try to get lined up with that dead center, which it looks like we're pretty good. I'll show you the other dial over here. So the red line there is what we're trying to make line up on the balance. So we're pretty good on that, I think. So now we'll take and measure out a specific weight of corn. There's a little indicator up here that I'm watching. Yeah, it looks about right. And then we'll take and we'll double check that the chamber is empty, and then dump our sample in. And then it's positioned in a way that works. So we'll go on and then see what we're testing. So we're testing about 15.6 it looks like, and I said 45 degrees. Which is going to be about 2 points, so we're 17.6 thereabouts. Probably the elevator in town will read a little bit lower than this tester because all this corn got rained on yesterday. But we at least know that we're not crazy wet anyway, so we have some options as far as where we go as far as picking corn today. I'm going to do one more sample and then figure out for sure what our game plan is, and then clean up and leave the combine and get to rolling. So the second sample we took came out about 13 on the meter, and we added our 2 points for the temperature correction, or a little bit more than 2 maybe, but that one tested around 15, so probably we'll end up over there. That was the field where the corn was kind of going down on that little corner section at least, so like I said, we would like to get that out before it goes down more anyway, so that'll work out fine. We will have to take off some end-rows that are the same variety or the same hybrid as the wetter sample, but there shouldn't be a whole lot of those bushels, so we'll get it mixed in and it'll work out fine. So before we do too much else, I'm also going to get the truck started up here and see if we're building air okay. Had some issues with something in the air compressor or the air lines icing up and causing problems, so we'll see what happens here. Let the gauges do their little fancy sweep. So our air gauges are down here in the lower right. Looks like needles are coming up, which means we aren't frozen. Yay! So that alarm will go off until we get to about 60-75 pounds, somewhere in there. I'm not exactly sure what the number is, but that's like the minimum for the air brakes to work. So any truck with air brakes will have an alarm like that. But I don't think we're probably going to be trucking for a little bit yet, so I'm probably just going to shut it back off here. But we do know that it's going to work when we go to use it, or it should at least, so that is good news. We are running some corn this afternoon. Got a full wagon behind us here that we're going to take home, and working on getting the truck full. So the truck will go to town here later this afternoon. I think it's going pretty smoothly. The sun is shining. Haven't seen that for a bit. And it's actually fairly pleasant outside. So all in all, not a bad day. So we're out here in the stocks where the combine ran a few minutes ago, and just kind of looking to see how it's doing. We've got a few kernels on the ground, but if you can see, they're kind of the round ones that are off the butt of the ear, and that's probably just showing on the head when in the bottom of the ear hits the deck plate. Some of this corn is pretty dry. I'm losing a few somewhere. There's one still on the ear, which didn't get knocked off. There'll always be a little bit of loss, so you'll always find a few kernels on the ground. You just want to make sure there aren't a whole lot that indicate you're leaving a significant amount of bushels in the field. And we'll also kind of look in these rows of the adjacent pass and see if there's any kernels in there, which there's not really. Maybe one or two here or there. Some of this corn has dropped a few ears and has a few stalks going down, so if we're walking through and we see one, usually we'll just kind of grab it just so that there's not a bunch of volunteer corn there next year. Probably never get them all, but I figure it can't hurt. So I just got the wagons and the grain cart into position for Dad running the combine, and I'm going to take this truck to town. So we'll push the button to close the tarp. like we've got air pressure built up, which is good, and it should be ready to go. Hit our air valves here. And get this one headed to town. I had a wagon full that we're bringing to the Benson home here. So we're gonna fire up the auger tractor. Got a hydraulic hopper mover, which has proven to be pretty handy. Gotta get that in position. Lower the chute on the wagon. Run back to the auger tractor and kick on the power takeoff to turn on the auger itself. And we'll also throttle up a little bit while we're here. We'll open up the wagon and get some corn flowing through. And once we kind of have some grain into the auger, so it's not going to clatter and clang and wear a whole bunch, come back and throttle up. The spreader on this bin is not rated for a 13-inch auger, so we've been running this one not full throttle, more like 1500 RPMs on the tractor. Range. The tractor just throttled down a bunch, or pulled down a bunch, and then it was fine. Now I'll go ahead and open this up. So we're running the auger fairly full, we're just not running it at full speed. Over the stop. You want to crawl in while you're unloading because you can get sucked in pretty easily. Alright, got the wagon empty. Close out the door. Roll down the tractor. And normally I'd let it run for a little bit to clean out the auger, but with getting my camera on, I was kind of slow, so it's already cleaned out. So we'll kick off the PTO. There'll usually be a few kernels stuck in the corners on the chute that we'll kick down into the swing hopper, so that they will be there when we dump the next load and eventually end up in the bin. And we'll hook the chute back up so that it's not hanging way out going down the road. Move in the swing hopper. Turn off the tractor and go on our way. So I did crawl up while I was unloading that one, and I think what happened when the tractor throttled down or loaded up, I think we're still maybe overrunning the spreader a little bit. I suspect since we're into some drier corn right now, the auger this auger is being more efficient and putting more out the other end, and the spreader's not able to keep up, whereas it wasn't really a problem yesterday. So I think we'll just have to be a little bit careful about exactly how far we open up the gates on the wagons, so that we're not running in quite that fast, and hopefully should get along okay. All right, we're back to the field with the empty wagon, and I was going to show you one thing. We got these nifty hitches called an agri-speed hitch. Put the tractor in gear here, and when I yank on this, that releases, so you can pull away from the wagon. And right up here we have a full one, so we'll go around the grain cart. Got that pretty full, so I hope I can make it out the driveway without spilling any. Trying to get an angle that hopefully you have a decent view here. So now we're just going to kind of back up easy into the device. And we're hitched up. So there is a transport lock that we use when we're going down the road loaded. So we'll stick that pin through and then put the hairpin clip there. And that prevents the mechanism from opening up to allow the hitch to come loose. And while we're here, we'll hook up lights also, so we can run our orange flashers. That'll give us flashers on the back of the wagon, as well as like red tail lights at night, which usually anymore we're just using the wagons to haul back and forth to the bin site, so we're not going very far. But especially when we were using wagons to haul to town, having decent lights so that traffic knows that you're there and going slow kind of helps keep things safer. So now I'm gonna dump the grain cart on the semi. Alright, so we're up at the semi now. I thought I stopped the video, but maybe not. So we'll kick on our PTO for the grain cart auger, level up a bit, open up the gate. You can see that little yellow spot coming up on the top of the auger there, and we've got corn. We'll adjust our spout to try to get the corn between the straps that support the tarp to keep it from bouncing out. We'll throttle up a little bit more. Transmission in first gear in preparation for moving around a little bit here. Just can't get it perfect today. it runs over fast enough the way it is. Okay, so you can see there's no corn in that lower window. So we're just about out. And she's empty. So we'll kick off the PTO. And then we will pull the auger in. And move this back over to the Indros where it's ready to dump on. Some people will unload on the go with the combine moving, but we don't, partly because of personnel. Also because it's a little bit better not to run the grain cart through the field and pack things down. And also the grain cart is kind of close to the auger on our particular combine. So I think unloading on the go would be pretty risky as far as bashing the auger into the cart, and that would really slow down harvest a lot. So we just alternate. The stuff that goes to town usually goes onto the cart and then gets shuttled onto the truck, and the ones that are going, or the loads that are going to the bin, we just put straight on the wagons and take those home. So we slowed down the tractor a little bit on this load, and that seems to be working better as far as not choking at the top end. I know the auger is not running quite as full because, I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the video, but it's actually kind of waving back and forth. As the auger gets full, it actually bends down at the end just from the weight. So it'll be above that ring when it's empty, but then before it was sitting clear down on the top of the bin. Right now it's floating maybe 4 inches above, I would say, so it's definitely not as full as it was. So that should be dropping the corn a little higher above the spreader. So if it is overflowing, it's overflowing without choking the big auger. Okay, so we're empty here, so we'll kind of scoop out and bang out the last few kernels. And then as the auger cleans out, you'll actually see it rise up. You'll be able to see underneath the spout. So the last little bit of corn going to the bin out of this load. So we'll get the auger resituated here so it's out of the way. Put up the chute on the wagon. Turn off the auger tractor. And then I was going to run up on the bin and just sort of give a view of the countryside. It's actually turned into a super nice afternoon here for being the 2nd of November. Really clear day, kind of partly cloudy. See all the farm fields all around. And we've got a gap in the safety railing here because there's going to be a walkway over to the other bin eventually, but they were back ordered by the time we figured out what we needed. Just a little view of the countryside around here. There's a windmill farm kind of just to the south and west of us, which can be good or bad depending on your opinion, I guess. But we're up fairly high in general for Iowa. And on a clear day you can see quite a ways. Just barely see the water tower in the neighboring town, which is about 8 miles. Kind of in the trees. Probably it won't be visible in the video. But I guess this is the glory of Southwest Iowa. Give you a peek inside the bin here. Well, the camera is going to show it, but we're pretty much full. This new one here is a 42-foot bin, 7 rings tall. Holds about 30,000 bushels. The one that we've got the auger up to is a 36 foot by 6 ring, which is about 20,000. And then if you have noticed the smaller bin in some of the other videos or in the background, that's around the corner here. We'll be able to see it in a second. That's our drying bin, so it has a burner on the fan and a serrator to be able to dry with heated air and keep the grain in good condition and avoid having hot spots or spoilage. That's a 30 foot, hold about 10,000 or a little bit less. By the time you take the serrator out, you lose a little bit as far as capacity at the top edge. Back to the field. Back at the field, and Dad took the truck to town, so I get a rare opportunity to run the combine. In corn, I should say. Normally I run the soybeans and he runs most of the corn. Just with the corn being a lot more grain to carry away, he doesn't like having to get in and out and move augers around and all that stuff since he's getting a little bit older. And I'm happy to have the help, so I try to sort of accommodate. Alright, so down here in our controls, got the throttle down right now. We're in an open area, so I'm just going to leave the unloading auger sticking out. We're going to kick on our head, kick on our separator, and a whole bunch of our low speed alarms are going off because we haven't throttled up. Once we throttle up the motor, those will all go off. Normally try not to engage with the engine revved up just for the sake of wear and damage and stuff like that. I'm going to try to get underneath these stalks that are bent over right here if I can. And we're harvesting some corn. Not very well since I'm trying to hold the camera with one hand, but see how the video comes out, if it's usable or not. The corn head we're using here is a 6-row 30-inch head. It's actually a really early 643 John Deere. I think it's like a late 60s model, super early serial number. Would have originally been used on probably like a 7700 combine. Dad's owned it for probably 40 years, 30 years, a while. Actually get along pretty well with it. John Deere made this particular model for a long time and didn't really change too much even when they went to the 693s and 1293, 893, etc. We have made a few minor changes. So the auger that feeds the corn into the head, which is probably not very visible, but you can maybe kind of see on the camera more than I can from the driver's seat. We put a bigger sprocket on to slow that down and kind of keep it from kicking gears out the front of the head. And also, with this combine being a 1998 model, at some point John Deere changed the angle that the head attached to the feeder house plate. With this head on this combine, as it came from the factory, was tilted down a lot in the front. So a couple years ago, we switched to PTO shafts on the back side and then put a wedge kit in to kind of tilt the head up on the front and be able to run it a little bit more level as far as keeping things from rolling off the front of the head when we get ears that come loose from the stock and stuff. But I've probably done enough of a poor operating job getting through this pass and taking video, so I'm going to cut this off and pay a little bit better attention to what I'm doing. Hopefully we didn't run over anything too crazy or leave too much corn on the ground, but it would be easier to do this job with two hands. One thing I neglected to address was the corn reel. So that's what this big black thing across the head with the big tines that are slowly turning is. It's actually not really doing too much or really anything. The corn's actually standing quite well this year. Dad got this a number of years ago, and he had a specific hybrid that went down in a windstorm really bad. And it kind of helps when you have the corn all laid down as far as getting it raked into the head and you know, getting as much of that crop into the combine instead of leaving it on the ground. And since then, mostly we've just kind of left it on the combine, and we'll raise it up all the way so it doesn't really affect anything, which is kind of what's going on today. But that would be like if we had the corn, if the stalks were broken over, that would kind of help us with feeding into the head, so that we didn't ball up a whole bunch of stalk residue and stuff and prevent us from getting the ears in the corn.